Welcome to the In Good Kompany Podcast on behalf of Manchester TV channel. And it's a funny one tonight, guys, but bear with us. We have connection problems with South Korea as far as visuals are concerned, but we have the very famous, and of course he has been on this once before, Mike Long, all the way from South Africa. Mike, we can't see you, mate, but I'm sure we can hear you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm not exactly South Africa, but I am.
Oh, South Korea as well. Oh, it's been a bit of a build-up, guys. So my apologies. I'll try to be a lot better.
That's okay.
How are you, mate? How are you in South Korea?
I'm doing very well. It's like about 1:28 in the morning, and I'm very excited about our prospects.
Yeah, I think we are. Right, we're gonna start this little pod today. We're gonna have a quick summary first of Manchester City, a little trip to Carrow Road at Norwich City. Norwich City 0, Manchester City 4. Mike, your sort of brief impressions of that game?
Well, I was kind of hoping for 7 or 8-0 as we normally do out there, but unfortunately it wasn't quite that number, but I think that we did them over quite well. Don't you think, Bernard?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was when I saw the team, and we'll go into it in a minute. And I saw the team, I was a bit, glass half full. I was thinking, what's Pep playing at? But at the end of the day, I don't think we really got out of second or third gear, did we, Mike? And we still did a reasonable job at 4-0.
Not really. I think that we did them 2-0 in the first half with Gundogan and Stones. But we had to wait until the second half just to put the gloss on that. I thought our players did well. A lot of people were complaining about the lineup. I have to say there were a lot of gurning and moaning about that lineup, Bernard. But I thought that they did the job quite well.
Yeah, I mean, you just said Gundogan and Stones then. Stones wasn't playing, and Gundogan, I don't think Gundogan scored, mate. You get the games mixed up.
Well, in this particular game, sorry, let me just check the lineup here. Yeah, you're right, exactly.
Yeah, it was a wonderful Mr. Sterling goal, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, we're talking. It's all about the Sterling show, isn't it?
Right, let's get on with this. Let's get on with it. Let's get into some sort of normality here. I mean, I'll talk the lineups now, Mike, for you. Ederson, Walker, Diaz, Ake, very unusual. Zinchenko, very unusual. Obviously, that was the back. No Laporte or Cancelo, mate. What did you think of that back lineup?
Unnecessarily strong, wouldn't you say?
Well, I don't know. I think it was probably weak, wasn't it? I thought Zinchenko and Ake, isn't that weakening the defence just a little bit?
Not necessarily weakening it, but I think that when you've got that kind of a lineup, that kind of a squad, you've got to give these racehorses a line out, or you're going to have a problem, aren't you?
I think I totally agree. I mean, obviously, when you look at it in hindsight, you think, obviously, we've got bigger games, bigger fish to fry coming up. Pep's got to rotate the squad, and he's got faith in his squad. I think that's what it's all about. Pep has faith in his squad. Sometimes we don't, as fans. You know, we're a bit pessimistic, or I am sometimes. Obviously, going into defensive midfield, he stuck Ferner in there. Was that a surprise for you?
Was a bit, actually. I'm sorry there for looking at that the wrong. I was actually looking at the wrong lineup there. But I mean, if you think about it, I think Nathan Ake deserves a bit of a run out, don't you think? I mean, he's been fairly solid. I don't think he's put a foot wrong.
No, I'll bang the drum for Nathan. I think he's done a great job when he's come in.
Well, we're talking about the English Ruud Gullit, aren't we? I don't think that he's put a foot wrong. I don't think that he's anything for us to be concerned about. And I think he did a pretty good job, not only at the back, but he was rampaging forward a few times.
Yeah. What about Ferner, mate? Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I was, because a lot of people were on Twitter saying that Ferner has had his ghost, but I don't think so, Bernard. I think he's still got all of the qualities that he normally has. Maybe he's a touch slower, but he still reads danger better than anybody that I can see around at the moment.
Yeah, I think when we play teams, no disrespect to Norwich, but when we play teams like Norwich, Ferner is just at his imperious best, because he's playing against a possibly weaker team than perhaps. Obviously, we talk the big games, the Champions League games, and he looks quality. On to his midfield guys. Obviously, we had Gundo and Bernardo. No KDB. Did that surprise you?
For me, not. I think he deserves a rest because I think that, as Colin has said on our podcasts quite recently, he's absolutely busting a gut. He knows what's expected of him. He knows what we want, and he's trying to deliver it. But I think that I'm not entirely sure that he's completely rested after that injury. I think he might need a wee bit more time.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I say he's working very, very hard. I think he deserved the rest. The amount of workload he's been putting, workload is shifting the last few games. I think he deserved that rest. And up front, quite impressive. Foden, Mahrez and Sterling. I don't think there's any problems with that, was there?
Well, I think that you were the one who said that Mahrez is undroppable. And I think you're absolutely right there. And I think he played his part in this game. But I think it was all about Sterling, and we're going to have a problem trying to talk to, our friend, Mr. Man City on YouTube, Ray. I think because he's very, very difficult to give any praise to Sterling because he switches in and switches out. But I think he was up for this though, Bernard, wasn't he?
He certainly was. I mean, one of his best games for me personally, not just because of obviously what happened, but which we'll talk about. But I just thought he was a constant threat all the time. On the bench, Mike, we had Stones, Laporte, Rodri, KDB, and Cancelo. So 5 players I expect to sort of make a showing in the next game. And obviously, he had the. And we've lost Mike. Sorry, mate, you're back.
Yeah, straight here.
Yeah, it's no problem. Yeah. So, subs, mate. We had Stones, Laporte, Rodri, KDB, Cancelo, Carson, and obviously the young lads, Keiki, Delap, and McAtee. I mean, that was pretty much a normal bench with 5 guys sat on there that you might expect to play the next game. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that, but I was kind of surprised, actually, with how many of the big guns were left out of this one. You know the way that Pep plays it. He doesn't actually take too many chances. And I know it's Norwich. Norwich were down in 18th with 17 points. They're in the bottom 3. But still, I was kind of surprised about how many of the big guns he left out. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that's what made me a little bit nervy before the game, because obviously drop 2 or 3 perhaps, but dropping sort of 4 or 5, you're starting to, affect the way the rhythm of the team, the way we play, which is what has happened in the past. But we did seem to get away with it. Just a quick word on Norwich, Mike. There's a poor young lad playing for him called Brandon Williams who got a bit of stick. What was the reason behind that, mate? Do you know?
Well, this is Brandon Williams. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the one that used to play for Manchester United.
Absolutely. Every time when he got his name mentioned when the team was read out, he got massive boos from the City fans. So,
I tell you, he's a nasty piece of work.
Yeah.
When he was playing for Manchester United, we saw the way that he came up against our forwards, and it wasn't through skill. I mean, it's not like a young Tony Adams or anything like that. He was a bit snipey, a little bit aggressive. A little bit nasty, actually, and we remember that. I think particularly there were 2 or 3 occasions when City used to bounce the ball off him and bounce it around in the corner flag while we're waiting for a result. But he is not someone that City fans warm to. I mean, we actually like young players, but not this guy.
No, he certainly, the City fans left him in no doubt that we didn't like him, that's for sure. On to the game, mate. It didn't start exactly a buzzing pace, but within 5 minutes, I was right behind that Bernardo shot where we stood in the ground, and I thought that was going in, mate. What did you think?
I thought so too. Very nice, neat play. I was kind of hoping that it wasn't going to be like against the game against Brentford, where we're going to be struggling the whole way through. But it wasn't the same way as against Brentford. We were cutting quite nice passes through, and then it came to Gundo, and you're going to talk about the rest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he hit the post, so he went nicely back for our ex-keeper, Mr. Angus Gunn, of course, so that fell nicely for him. I think we had another chance. I think Gundo had a bit of a chance, didn't he, mate, to actually score as well very quickly after, I think you just mentioned there. But interestingly enough, what interested me was at the 17th minute. I mean, the referee in this game, I think it was Darren England from memory. I've not got it written down here. He sent Laporte off, didn't he, in that Crystal Palace game back at the Etihad quite a bit back. And I thought he booked Diaz nice and early. Do you remember anything about that, mate? I thought Diaz was a bit cynical. What did you think of that booking?
It was a bit soft, I thought. I thought that their manager thought the same thing. I don't know. I just think that they're kind of waving their flags a little bit too much. I think that was a bit harsh. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the fact that I think Ferner got bypassed a little bit in the last third, and he seemed to be a bit slow to react. And I think Diaz just panicked just a little bit. And I think the referee thought, well, we'll teach him a lesson for doing that. And he likes to show a card, the referee for this one. So I think that's what he did. But very quickly after, mate, we nearly let a goal in. They came very, very close. What are your memories of that one?
Just a little bit. I think that Ray would call it a little bit of ball watching, a little bit of being asleep, and I think that we made them look good. I watched it like 2 or 3 times on the replay. They sliced through us a bit. This can sometimes happen to us when you play a high line like that. That can sometimes happen.
Yeah, because I think it was a corner that they got a free header to, but the guy only managed to head it over into the corner where they got it. They picked it up again, and obviously the header. It was Hanley, wasn't it? I think Hanley's. He was quite involved in the game, up and down the pitch, wasn't he? Hanley. We'll talk about him again later. But obviously, I thought Edison had got a little fingertip to it, but obviously he hadn't. He hit the bottom of the post, and Mr. Ferner was there to do his bit and clear it. So that was probably, Mike, I think that was probably the only real scare in that first half I can remember from Norwich. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say so. I think we were pretty much clinical, consummate in that first half. That was a little bit of a scare, but I don't. I mean, we've had such great times at Carrow Road. I think that we were confident that it was going to come good and score 2 or 3 more goals. And of course, that's the way it happened. Of course, let's talk about that.
Yeah, 31 minutes. Yeah, it was a foot. I think it was a Walker cross, wasn't it, from the right? He whipped it in. It's quite a good cross actually, and the defender tried. I don't know if he's trying to pass it to his mate in front of him or he's trying to clear it, but he sort of hit his foot and just sort of fell nicely to Sterling. Do you talk me through what happened after that, mate?
Okay, so I think one of the rarities in our team is when Kyle Walker goes forward. He's not the best, and I think that one of the things that a lot of City fans were talking about was when Kyle Walker substituted for Walker in midweek, and wondering is Stones better out there than Walker? I'm not entirely sure. We know that he's not. He's fast.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily deliver the best, cross. But I mean, on this time, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to ask this question to you, Bernard. What do you think about Walker's forward play, despite his speed?
I think it's pretty rubbish, mate. I always have done. I always think, even when he's on form, he very rarely supplies an assist or anything like that. He very rarely scores a goal. He does occasionally, but I say very rarely. Yeah, I'm not overly impressed. I just want him there for his pace at the back because I think going forward is a bit of a I'm not saying a waste of time. I mean that's a bit cruel, but he doesn't really finish things off, does he, mate? It's a bit like Cancelo the other night. He was brilliant, but he just didn't quite finish it off. And I want, if you're going to get up there into the opponent's box, the opponent's third, I want a cross put in, or I want an assist, or I want to be greedy. I want a sort of goal. But yeah, for me, Walker,
I would kind of say that he doesn't really offer us anything up front.
Yeah.
And he's a superb reactive defender, and he's a good distributor of the ball. But I think that when Kyle passes the halfway line, I think that that's the end of it. I don't think we can expect anything more from him after that, and that's why in the game a few days ago, that's why it was very, very refreshing to have John Stones in there. And I don't know if Pep has cottoned onto that, and that's maybe what's going to happen in the big games for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, well, obviously it will happen because obviously Walker's not getting any younger like the rest of us, and I think Pep's got one eye on that. But all right, it wasn't a bad. I thought it was a good. Give him credit. I thought it was a good little whipped-in cross, and it did fall for Sterling. So what did Sterling have to do, mate, to score that first goal?
Well, the thing that Sterling has to do is not think about it.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that time and time again. Although this was a good one. Like normally, if the ball flashes across the box and it hits him on the way in, then he gets the credit. And we've talked about this a lot, that Sterling needs to have no time to think about it. But this one was a little bit more impressive, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, he knew what he was doing, mate, didn't he? He literally didn't waste time. I mean, usually he'd ponder on the ball, wouldn't he, and try and beat players. But he literally a couple of touches and he let fly, didn't he? And obviously we saw the result.
Yeah, I think that he did beautifully with this one, and of course because of his first goal, this was always going to be if we had a penalty or anything like that, he was going to take the penalty late on because of his hat trick. Now, what I would have loved to have seen was Guardiola saying, "I don't care that you're on 2 goals. We're going to put Mahrez on the last penalty." But of course, he's got a bit of sentimentality, I think, with Pep.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that in the second half. I mean, obviously, we'll mention Mahrez because by that time, when we did get a penalty, Mahrez had left the pitch, so I was beginning to panic. But half time, 1-0, mate, fairly comfortable. But as like anything, 1-0's never enough, is it? There's always a chance the team can score. But it didn't take long, did it, for the second half for us to actually double that lead and probably kill the game off at that stage. And it was all thanks to Phil Foden, mate. What do you remember of that one?
Yeah, this was on the 48th minute. This was Phil Foden, and he's been getting quite a lot of stick from the City fans in the last couple of games that I've been watching on Twitter. They've been asking us to as if we had any choice in it to put him on the bench, but I always feel more confident when Phil Foden is on the pitch, and he came up 3 minutes after the restart. What do you think, Bernard?
Yeah, Gundogan good cross in, a bit of a scramble, but he did well to win the ball back. Obviously, I saw it back on playback. You can't from where we were; it was at the other end of the ground, so we didn't get the greatest view. But it was nice for the old referee to point to his watch, wasn't it, mate? When obviously I'd just crept over the line.
Yeah, I mean, I was confused about that for a while. It had obviously crossed the line, but you were actually in the ground. I was actually watching it on TV, and I'm just wondering what you thought, because even when you get all the TV angles, it was quite a while before we figured out what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, it was Hanley, wasn't it, who supposedly cleared it. We were a bit frustrated. We thought we'd missed a golden opportunity to score a goal because it just looked as though it was easier to score than miss. But obviously, he got in. The defender was there who had the ball, etc. But yeah, it didn't seem that long. I mean, it was a bit of a muted cheer when we did get the goal awarded, even though obviously it's not like VAR with these things, is it? But it seems, as you said there, it must have been a reasonable time, because it was a good cheer, but it wasn't we didn't jump up, and it wasn't limbs, as we call it, isn't it?
It was longer on TV.
It was a bit of a damp squib, and all of a sudden we're 2-0 up and the game's pretty much over, and yet it didn't feel that exciting, again, because of the time, as you intimated there, the time it took for the referee to give the goal. But it was 2-0. Mr. Aki, which we talked about gushingly before, Mike, had a very good chance, didn't he? Do you remember anything about that with the one over the bar?
I did, and as I said before, he's in the habit now of pulling that hair back out of his eyes. Not many City fans have noticed that, but he's beginning to impress me a lot. I'm not exactly sure how he would regularly get in that back four, Bernard, but I'm going to throw that over to you. I mean, he's very, very comfortable on the ball. He's got a great strike on him, but I'm not entirely sure what prospects he has to be in the starting lineup on a regular basis. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like anything, mate. He is a very close fourth-rated centre-back. He probably wasn't as close as he was to the other three as this a few months back. But obviously, is he happy with that? Is he happy to play for I'd be happy to play for one of the greatest teams in the world at the moment, so I think he should be fairly happy. I think Pep tries to give him the games, which he did yesterday. I certainly didn't expect him to play. So, yeah, it's whether he wants regular first team football at a lesser team, or whether he wants to do what he's doing at, as you say, one of the best teams in the world at the moment. I think at the moment he's probably happy.
He's in the same position as Zinchenko on his other side. I think they are excellent players. They deserve to be in the starting 11 of pretty much any other team in the league. Now the question is, imagine yourself. You're a great player. You're the second choice, but you're going to win cups. You're going to win trophies. You're going to have excitement and adventure. And I think that these guys know they know what side the bread's buttered on.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, mate. So anyway, he nearly got it. I think he was a bit disappointed he didn't, which I like to see. I like to see frustration. 70 minutes, obviously, Mr. Sterling again, but a good little build up to it as well. A well taken goal, mate. Any memories of that one?
Not the best memories because just at that particular point my stream went out. I went to get it back and it came back again. But I think I came back about halfway through it. So you could maybe help me with this one.
Yeah, it's actually a Foden cross into the box, and obviously Diaz was at the back post, very very physical. I mean, it wasn't a foul. The defender had no chance. Diaz was sort of made sure it was his ball, and obviously Sterling had crept in at the back, hadn't he? Unnoticed and this is where I like to see Sterling. I think he's very good at that, getting in that 6-yard box, and I like to see. I know he can miss from 6 yards. We've seen him miss from 6 yards, but that's where I like Sterling to be, and he just snuck in at the back and a great little header. Nice. Well, it looked simple, but there was a lot of good work beforehand, wasn't there?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that this is where a lot of our rivals would just say that was kind of like a tap in. But the thing is, you've got to be in the right place at the right time. Now, he's very good at that. Whether you could argue about with his one-on-one situations, but he's definitely in the right spot at the right time, and that was a nice little goal. And obviously, he has been well aware of the speculation around him, and obviously, there's been quite a lot of talk about people that are interested in him in Europe, and obviously his contract situation. But I think he's probably going to get a new contract, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's dragging on a little bit, isn't it? It's dragging on a little while, but obviously it's not. We're not desperate, but obviously you'd like to see, as we've been trying to do, tie players down. So I'm sure we'll hear something, either positive or negative, very, very soon on that situation. And obviously the way he's playing, he looks as though the most City fans would be happy for him to sign a new contract if he keeps up what he's doing. A chance for Pep, though, Mike, to bring on the young lads. 3 substitutions, all young lads. He didn't bring any of the 5 seasoned professionals on, quite rightly. He brought, of course, McAtee, Delap and Cakey on. What did you think about that?
Well, I was the one that I was most interested in was Keiki. He brought him on the 84th minute. He brought Liam Delap on 81, James McAtee on 75. Of course, I was following this. I was watching the game, and I was also following everything on Twitter. So on Twitter, everyone's going, "Okay, now let's get the kids on." Now, one thing that I didn't realize before today is like it's a small point, but every time you see the word Chagas, that's actually Keiki. And
Right.
and so Liam Delap and James McAtee didn't have an awful lot to show, but at the same time, all of these 3 guys, they've got something that I like that Ray will criticize me for. They've got like a little shimmy of the hips that I kind of I like that they have that. I was just wondering, Bernard, was there one of those 3 that made you like have a slight, a slight alteration of blood pressure?
Not particularly. I mean, Delap, I like to see Delap. I've not seen him for a long time with his injuries. And he did have something to do, didn't he, mate? Because obviously Mr. Dean Smith wasn't happy. He was saying it was a bit soft. But, hey, listen, if you're going to run into a player in the box and, whether you're deliberately fouling him with your feet or knocking him over, it's a penalty, surely, mate. I mean, obviously Delap was involved in that. What's Dean Smith on about, Mike? It's just sour grapes. I mean, they were 3-0 down. What difference does it make? A 4th anyway. But I don't understand what his argument was. I mean, it was the clearest foul I've ever seen.
Well, you think about it. You're like, this is in Norwich's ground. You're 3-0 down. You're in the last few minutes. I mean, do you want to rub it any further? You shouldn't. But I think that he kind of protected them a little bit with that one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I did look around thinking, where's Mahrez? I'd forgot he'd gone off, of course, Mike. So, as you sort of mentioned a little while ago, obviously, he rushed over and got the ball, Mr. Sterling, but I certainly had no confidence whatsoever. What was your confidence like?
No confidence whatsoever, mate. It's just the same with Sterling every time. I think that when he first came on the scene at Man City, he was surrounded by such great players with David Silva and people like that. They could lay it on a plate for him. I honestly think that David Silva made Raheem look a lot better than he really is. Not that he's bad, but I think that that David Silva made him look 100 times better. Now that he's gone, it's not quite the same. But I don't know, Bernard, what was your confidence level like?
Zero, mate. I'll be honest with you, absolutely. But I mean, it was 3-0, so I was happy. I'm thinking though, if say it was 0-0 or 1-0, I would Pep or would Diaz, or was Diaz still on the pitch? I think he was, wasn't he? Would he have said no, you're not taking it? Would someone have stepped up and said no, Raheem, you're not taking it because you're pretty useless? What do you think?
Well, the thing was that your number one is not on the pitch at that time.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question: who else is there?
Well, let's just have a look who was on the pitch at the time. I would have personally give it. See, Gundo had gone off as well, hadn't he? We are struggling, mate, aren't we? I mean, you'd probably say Foden, but he messed it up last time. So,
what about someone like Ruben Diaz or?
Or even Delap. I think Delap's got the confidence. I think he would have took it.
Yeah, and maybe Fernandinho, someone.
Yeah. Anyone but Sterling. But anyway, I mean, he did it, didn't he, mate? And Angus Gunn made an okay save, but I think he dived too far across, so he only managed to force it back into the danger area. And obviously,
I think he was fortunate, wasn't it? It came back nicely for him. He was able to slot in the rebound.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was not entirely convincing. This shows you why we need Mahrez, I think.
Yeah.
But all credit to him. That gave him his 3. That will do enormous for his confidence, which we could do with. But absolutely, I think that he is very, very grateful that he was the only realistic pick for that penalty.
Yeah, the perfect hat trick, Mike. Left foot, right foot, and a header, eh?
Well, back in the days of Aguero and Dzeko, okay.
Yeah, well, that's that, mate. Any conclusions? I mean, my man of the match, I would have to give it Sterling, to be honest with you, because of the hat trick. Aki very closely behind for me. Anyone else you thought was outstanding or did anything great yesterday?
I thought, given the criticism that he received, I thought Fernandinho was excellent. I thought that particular ability that he has to sniff out danger and to snuff it out. There's a lot of people who are consigning Fernandinho to the dustbin. I've read a lot of reports that City are looking for another player to play in that position, but I think that we're now in halfway through his final season. I think that he's been majestic, and I thought that he was great in this game.
Yeah, I can't disagree, mate. Good enough, wasn't it? 4-0. As I said, I don't think particularly got out of second or third gear. I think Norwich have got a few problems. They've got some very, very tough games coming up. They've got Southampton and Liverpool away in the league, and they play Liverpool in the cup as well. But they're not going to get anything from them. And I think got three tough games in March. I mean, they could end up getting 0 points out of the next 5 games, which will literally probably put them rock bottom again. What are your thoughts on Norwich?
You know who I was scared of? I was scared of Pookie.
It was rubbish, wasn't it? Rubbish.
I mean, obviously he has scored against us in the past, and this was the one player. I looked through their whole team, like Angus Gunn, who was our player, Max Aarons. Everyone was looking to buy him a season or 2 ago. Grant Hanley, Gibson, Brandon Williams, obviously, that we hate. Billy Gilmore, Lees Pudo, Kenny McLean, Josh Sargent, and Rashika and Timu Puki. I thought that he was the only one that could have given us a few frights, but it didn't turn out that way at all.
No, I think they're going to struggle, mate. But do you think they'll get relegated?
I think so. I think so. Actually, Bernard, if you think about three teams that will go down, I think you're looking at Norwich as being one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we move on. We'll move on, Mike. We'll move on to Sporting in the Champions League round of 16. First leg, 8 p.m. kickoff, 15th of February 2022. You're gonna laugh at this now, at the Estadio Jose Alvalade, is it? Is that how you pronounce it, Mike?
Alvalades, yes.
Right, okay. Well, it's there anyway. So what are your thoughts on this one briefly, and then we'll just have a bit more detail. What are your thoughts on this one there, Mike?
Well, this is interesting. I was actually there in 2004 for
Europe, cool, yeah.
2004. I was at that stadium. It's a boxed-in, very exciting one. What I'm really interested in is what kind of lineup that Pep is going to put out. But I think that you will probably agree with me that he's going to put out every strongest gun that he has. And I would say, let's go through this. Ederson, he's going to go for Cancelo.
Tell you what, Mike, can we just come to that at the end? Just briefly.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Put a strong team out, won't he, in this one?
Yeah, absolutely. He'll put out the strongest team that he has, because this is the one thing that has eluded Pep, and this is what everyone's talking about. Yeah,
just a few little stats against Sporting, Mike. Obviously, I personally think it will be a tough game, and they've had a very, very tough game against Porto, obviously on Friday night, where 5 men got sent off, three Sporting players were sent off in a feisty encounter, but it still leaves them 6 points behind Porto, so they're going to struggle to go back-to-back, aren't they, with their title. So I think they'll be up for this if they're not too tired from the exertions. But I think City should, just to sum up, I think we should be aiming to win this and win the home leg as well. But let's just have a few facts on this. Obviously, City played Sporting back in the old UEFA Europa Cup back in 11-12, a 1-0 defeat in Lisbon. I don't remember too much about that, but I do remember the return game, Mike. Did you a 3-2 win at our place? We were 2-0 down at half-time, and a brace from Aguero and Balotelli put it to 3-2, but we went out on the old away goals, which is no longer, Mike. Any recollections of that one?
Oh, very dim, Bernard. Just I think the one thing was about the Balotelli goal. I think that was the one thing that sticks in my memory. But how well do you remember that?
I don't really, mate. I'd have to go back and watch highlights, and I've not really done that. I just remember it being a disappointing game in the end because of the way we went out.
But I think Sporting Lisbon, they still have Paulinho that used to play for Tottenham.
Yeah, they do.
They have Nuno Santos as well.
Yeah. I mean, were the 11-4 favourites, Mike? Do you think that's fair? Or they seem to make us favourites every year, the bookies, don't they? Do you think that's a fair 4-1 Bayern Munich? Do you think that's the right call?
I think it is. I think it is, and I think that what everyone saw in the recent game is that with the best will in the world, they've got some disciplinary problems.
Yeah. I mean, he finished second to Ajax, who have been doing very, very well. I think they're a dark horse in this competition, to be honest with you. They're certainly classed as one of the weaker teams in the last 16. They've just won the League Cup against Benfica a couple of weeks ago, which was like their equivalent of the League Cup. They're in the semi-finals, their equivalent of the FA Cup. So they're not doing too bad. So, I mean, they're no mugs. As I said, they might have to give up on the league title this year because, let's face it, the Portuguese league isn't that great, and a 6-point gap for Porto is probably enough, although they might miss that guy who's gone to Liverpool now at Porto. I think he was one of their key players, but I think they'll probably still be okay. So let's have a look at, we've touched upon it before, The team, mate. Let's have a look. Obviously, we know Grealish, I don't think. Someone said he's out for a month. Some people said he's out for 3 or 4 days, so we have no idea, but I don't think he would have played anyway. We've got no Palmer and Jesus, I assume, are still suffering with injuries. So let's have a look at that starting 11, Mike. We've got Walker suspended, so he won't be starting. And, of course, we've got Cancelo and KDB, who are actually on warnings. If they get booked in this game, they're going to miss the second leg. So that's a bit of a worry as well for KDB and Cancelo. But you intimated at it before, mate. So I'll let you start us off. What you think Pep's going to do with his starting 11 for this one?
Yeah, sorry, I kind of preempted you a little bit early on and started to list them. But okay, obviously, I think there's no doubt about Ederson in goal.
Yeah.
I think that because of the Kyle Walker situation and because of the success, we're going to go with Kyle Walker again at right back.
No, he's banned, isn't he, Walker, mate? Stones, he's thinking.
No, I'm talking about John Stones at right back.
Yeah.
Cancelo at left back.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to go for Ruben Diaz. Can we play Laporte alongside him?
Yeah, I think we'll start with the team that started at Brentford at the back, don't you? The back five that started versus Brentford. I think Pep gave us an idea, didn't he, in that game?
Yeah, so Rodrigo is nicely rested, you would have think.
Yeah. He'll do you think Furner's worked his way back in? Do you think he might trust Furner? What do you think?
No. I think Furner is an occasional player at this stage.
Yeah.
So I think it's
playing devil's advocate. Yeah, I agree.
So we're talking Ederson and Diaz and Laporte and Stones on the right, Cancelo on the left, obviously Rodri in front, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo, I would think.
Yep.
And then up front. Now here's the argumentation. Now I think that Sterling has played himself in.
Yep, I agree.
But I wouldn't play him on the left. I'd play him on the right with Foden on the left.
Yeah, totally.
And who goes through the middle? Okay.
We're not going to stick Mahrez through the middle, mate, are you? So is it what about Gundogan?
It's got to be, because it can't be anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Gundogan's might, but, he might miss out again, mightn't he, again? He played, he seems to be the one they can't shoe on in half the time.
Well, what we're going to need to have is a very strong midfield, because with Sporting, they've got Pepe, they've got Paulinho, they've got two guys called Tabata and Augustin Margessin. They are very, very aggressive players, and they're likely to play four in midfield. So we're going to have to play the ball around them a little bit. So I hope we can do that.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting, very interesting game. I say it's for a tough game for they are one of the so-called weaker teams, the 500-1 to win the Champions League, but that's because they're playing us and we're the favourites, so that's bound to happen. Obviously, the crowd will be thoroughly behind them. I think the crowds, as they usually are in these games, very, very partisan. And I've said in my little preview I did for my own thing today that it won't surprise me if we go a goal down. It does happen in Europe, and then we come back. What do you think?
Well, I think it wouldn't be the end of the world. I think we can do them our ground. But I just wanted to check with you, Bern. Is Pepe suspended for this game or not?
No, I don't think so. I looked at the suspensions. There was a guy, but I don't remember it being Pepe. I think he's on the verge of it, isn't he, if he gets booked? But I think he's playing. I haven't got the details in front of me, but I don't think he was the guy. There is a guy suspended for them, but I don't think it was him.
You remember the guy called Sebastian Coates, or as we spell it in English, Coates, and he got a second yellow in their weekend game, and he's out for it. But I think Pepe is their kind of rock, and I suspect that he's probably okay for this game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've got the guys on a booking who miss the next leg if they get booked. So Fedal, Palina, Nunez, and Porro. Yeah, so that they all miss the next one.
They're basically a nasty bunch of little buggers, aren't they?
Well, Portuguese, mate. I mean, even when the nice guys are a bit of a pain, a bit like Bernardo would be.
I think we're in for a tasty evening, probably.
Yeah, I think it will. Crowd-wise and on the pitch, it is certainly going to be a very, very interesting game. So let's hope we get through it. Right, we're going to finish off there. Just a little mention. I've just kept up to date with this one, guys, for this presentation. Tottenham Hotspur at the Etihad, 5:30 p.m. on the 19th of February. Well, Mike, we've got a guy called Conte. He's not exactly pulling up trees, is he, mate? What are your thoughts on Tottenham and what challenge they'll pose for us?
I think that eventually they'll come all right, but not in time for this season. I like Conte. I think he can do a job. I've never seen him come in halfway through a season before, or a portion of a season before. I think he'll get it right. He will boss them around and tell them that who he wants. But I'm South Korean, mate. While they still have Son Heung-min, I think they've got a chance. And as you've seen, he's been popping them in for him. He'll be slightly outside the top four, if not in the top four, but I think it'll come well for him next season.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually looking at the table before this game. Spurs are actually in 8th place now. When Conte took over, they were in 9th. They played 10, won 5, lost 5, and now they played 22, won 11, lost 8, and drawn 3. So a slight improvement. Right? Sorry, mate, go on.
They've got a couple of games in hand, though, right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, he's still, I'm just saying the stats as they stand, he played 22. And I mean, he took 15 points from the first 10 games while Nuno was in charge. Obviously, they took 21 points from 12 games since Conte's come. So it's a slight improvement, mate, isn't it? But nothing substantial.
It is. But I think it's a different culture under that, cracking of a whip guy. I'm trying to imagine myself as a player underneath Antonio Conte, and I would imagine it's probably slightly different than it was before.
Yeah, I mean, I envisaged it. I thought they might have done a little bit better. Obviously, I did watch the bit of the last game, Spurs and Wolves. I watched about the last half, and obviously they played very, very well, but they were 2-0 down, and obviously Wolves were tiring a little bit, and Tottenham were throwing everything at them. But obviously, when they come to the Etihad, obviously, no doubt Mr. Kane will be trying to prove something, won't he, Mike? He'll be trying to prove something, and as you said, they've got Son, so I mean, they're real dangers, aren't they, to us?
Here's the question, Bernard. I think a lot of City fans would like to have your opinion on. What do you think about Harry Kane now? There's the whole rap song, "How Do You Like Me Now?" What do you think about that? Because there's still rumors that City are going to go in for him.
Well, it could come from nowhere, mate. But I think the money being talked about. I don't think it'll ever happen. I just don't think he's worth the money now. We lost that little bit of time on him. I think it's another 12 months down the line. I still don't think, and I think obviously as he's older, he'll pick up more injuries, and he's always been a little bit injury prone. I mean, unless we're going to get him for 40 or 50 million, mate, I personally wouldn't want to touch him with a barge pole. I don't know about you.
I think that you're right. I think that since that has all happened, I don't think he's done anything particularly to make us want to go and burst a bank for him. So I think that's dead. I think despite that we have those rumors on the various websites, I think you can forget that.
Yeah, I mean we've got a trip to Everton the week after, mate, which used to cause us all sorts of fears, didn't it, in the past? Not so much recently, but he's got a full week between this game, City and Spurs, and the Everton game. So I would expect again, as in Sporting, as the game against Sporting, it'll go for a very strong team. What would you say?
I would say I would agree with you. I mean. Is Lampard putting them together a little bit It's a bit difficult to say because they were well beaten last week, but they got a good win against Leeds. So I'm not entirely sure. I don't know what kind of team Everton are at the minute. They're
Sorry, Mike. Yeah, I've just introduced Everton to say there was a week between the games. We're still talking Tottenham, of course, about having a strong team.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, it's okay. It's me because I mentioned Everton, trying to confuse you, mate. Yeah. So Tottenham, because we've got a week between that game and the Everton game. I think there's absolutely no reason whatsoever that the Tottenham game we won't field a similar team to we put out against Lisbon, as long as everyone's fit, of course.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Tottenham game.
Yeah.
Well, they did beat us at the beginning of the season, so there's that. It's not the same now. I think that should be relatively comfortable. Because
I think Walker will come back in. You think Walker will start that one?
I would say so. Yeah, but still, we want to avenge any defeats that we've had during the season. That was one of them. That still hurts me, and I want to see us put one over on them.
Yeah, well, let's hope that we. I'll be disappointed if we don't tear Cockneys apart again. That's for sure, Mike. Would you agree?
Well, I mean, we've put one of the things that made me laugh was in the game against Peterborough. The fans were singing Cockneys tearing tearing Cockneys apart, and I was kind of thinking, what? And then I guess Peterborough qualified for being Cockneys, but yeah, I mean, I like that, and I want to see that again.
Yeah, I mean, we sing it to Brighton as well, mate, so I wouldn't worry too much about that.
I don't know. Did they qualify as Cockneys?
Yeah, well, they sound like Cockneys, put it that way. Right, Mike, before we go, my many thanks for helping us out, obviously, behind the scenes on this one, Mike. Much appreciated. Any final thoughts before we go, mate?
Yeah, just one thing I would mention, guys, for anyone who's listening. I was really touched by the 40th minute in our last game. This is a guy called Darren Blair, who unfortunately passed away. His brother is Colin. A lot of people know him very well. They were hoping that they could put out, a chant on the 40th minute. And as City fans and even the Norwich guys got in on that. I just want to express on behalf of City fans, really gratitude for that. He was a lovely fella, and I really hope that his family, especially Colin, can get over that. It's going to take a long time, but thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I condole. I'm sure condolences of all City fans to friends and family. Yeah, obviously I was there yesterday, and a little shout of "Once a Blue, always a Blue" went up as well. Very touching, and as you said, a number of Norwich fans also joined in with the applause, which was very really nice. So, a nice poignant thing to finish this little pod on today, guys. Hope you enjoyed this In Good Company on the Manchester TV channel podcast, and we'll hopefully be back. We might have a few more guys next week. My thanks again to Mike for stepping in at the last minute and helping us put this together, mate.
Up the blues, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike, in South Korea, not South Africa, South Korea. My thanks to Mike. Please, guys, if you can join us back here on In Good Company next week, be much appreciated. So everybody, please stay safe out there.
Up the blues, guys. Up the blues.